Hey, what's going on, people? You back in the lab with Abel, man. Tonight we're talking about. I have a whole different show. Y'all know on Thursday we used to film unnecessary roughness, but we got to cancel that tonight. We're gonna be talking about President Trump threatened to use the Insurrection Act as an anti-ICE protest flare up in another shooting in Minnesota. I was looking at this story here, man, when he talking about using the Insurrection Act. I hope the people of Minnesota don't take it that far. Let me say that. I also got the governor of Minnesota up here on the screen, and he telling people to use their cell phones to film stuff. And I'm with that. I think, you should film everything. You should. But at the same time, you see what happened with Verizon. Anytime they want to hit the kill switch on this stuff, they can turn all this stuff off. They can shut your cell phone down. They can shut the internet down, just like Iran did with their people. They shut all that mess down. But I want to talk about this possible Insurrection Act because it started with this second shooting where the ICE agent was struck in the head with a shovel, they say, or struck with the shovel, and he shot an illegal in the foot. This is my thing here. Because I see look like a lot of agitators out there. Just like I'm gonna show a video with the CNN reporter was talking about how they was just gathering together a small protest outside of the federal building, and it was peaceful. But then somebody threw a bottle at the agents. And then the agent in turn fired a canister of tear gas. So what I'm seeing and hearing from a lot of this, I don't know anybody in Minnesota. I don't have anybody. I got some ex-soldiers who live in Minnesota now, and they telling me some stuff on the side, much as they could get out there, but they said they're staying far away from this particular protest. So I'm like, if the agitators is throwing stuff, hurling stuff at the ICE officers, of course, the ICE officers going to be more aggressive toward the crowds. They're not looking at who did what or who threw something at them. They're looking at a crowd as a whole and how can we contain it. And so as a veteran, I'm looking at it. Minnesota, you all do not want President Trump to use the Insurrection Act. Just like he was threatening to use it and involve the National Guards and was threatening to bring in the Marines in California. You all don't want that. Let me say that. A few agitators will cause a major problem up there in Minnesota. And I truly think your local government, your governors and your mayors are your problems. Let's listen to what Tim Walsh said. It's only about 28 seconds long, but let's hear what he got to say.
Help us establish a record of exactly what's happening in our communities. You have an absolute right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct these activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of the atrocities against Minnesotans, not just to establish a record for posterity, but to bank evidence for future prosecution.
He's absolutely right. You can film a federal agent, a local agent, anybody. You can film pretty much anything in public. You know what I mean? As far as your eye can see, except I think federal buildings and military sites and stuff like that, you can't film them. And so he's right. Yes, you can film them. And I'm sure some ICE agents doing the wrong thing too. Let me just say that. But at the same time, what I am saying about your local government is that your local government should be saying, hey people, let's scale this thing back. Let's allow ICE to do their job in a peaceful manner. Let's supervise them, but let's allow them to do their job in a peaceful manner. And then if they get out of hand, then we can send that up to your local government or whatever you do. But there's no way in hell Tim Walsh and his local government will prosecute any ICE agent. It won't happen. First of all, federal government just gave them full immunity. So even if the local government tried to prosecute them, it's just going to pardon them or whatever the president would do. Nothing would happen. So that's why I'm telling them the best thing they can do is stay out of the way or do it peacefully. But the few agitators that's out there, it remind me of the protests that was taking place years ago with the Black Lives Matter and all these other protests, where there were a lot of black folks out there marching, but then they were saying, hey, there's people out here throwing bricks at the police that's not us. And so the black folk knew that the police is always going to be like, well, let's go after them because that's where the brick coming from. So they started getting a hold of the agitators who was throwing bricks at the officers and stopping it themselves. And that's what I'm telling people. If you see somebody out there hurling any projectile at the ICE officer or at any federal officer, if Trump hopefully don't send the National Guard or the military up to Minnesota. Man, if you see somebody throwing something, man, you need to address that with that person quick. You need to put hands on them or something, because what you finna do is bring the attention to yourselves, to that crowd. So, and I'm telling you, that's one thing y'all don't want is the Insurrection Act, because I'm telling you, it bypasses your government and your local authorities. When Trump become pretty much, he takes over Minnesota. He's sending the National Guard, the Marines, the United States Army, whatever you want to send up there. He deploying them on the streets of Minnesota. Pretty much he bringing martial law to Minnesota. And you see, and you know, the National Guard, I always gave the National, as an ex-soldier, we used to get the National, they're soldiers too, don't get it wrong, but we used to call them weekend warriors. But now, after the National Guardsmen and women that got shot and killed in D.C., those guys going to be more on alert. They're training harder. They're going to be more aggressive toward the crowd now, because they just say weekend war. They finna become full-fledged soldiers in the mix of the heat. They went from working a 9 to 5 one day to pretty much in civil unrest on these streets the next day. So you don't want that, man. Y'all don't want that. And then it weakens the checks and balances. There's nobody who's going to be looking to correct anything. You know what I mean? There's nobody going to be like, oh, he couldn't have done that. He shouldn't have did that. He shouldn't have did that. And one thing about a soldier, man, they're not like your local police officers. They're not. As a soldier, when I got orders, my job was to execute those orders. When I signed my name on that line, that dotted line back in the day, 30 years ago, I was to serve, I became a GI, government issue, to protect the Constitution against foreign and domestic terrorists. And people think, hey man, well, we protesting our rights. You are, but do it peacefully. But when it becomes violent, that's when the problems start. That's when we get aggressive. That's when if something hit one of them soldiers, they're gonna probably bust your head. Because all we see is orders. All we see is the mission. That's what we train to do. We train for battle. So I'm telling y'all, man, y'all local government is the problem up there. You know what I mean? It's the problem. So let's watch a couple of videos, and I'll give my commentary and come back and talk about it. But I'm gonna show you the video where a girl said they were standing outside and somebody heard a water bottle or something at ICE, and then that's when the canister of tear gas came. Let's go.
We saw agents coming out of this building information and tried to clear protesters off of the street for the cars to be able to move through, standing in that kind of confrontational, but still just pushing protesters out onto the sidewalk. And soon after, some kind of projectile looked to me like a water bottle was thrown at these agents, and then all of us, including our crew here, our CNN crew, got hit with some projectiles with pepper spray. So that's what we've been seeing. The flare-ups, they come and they go.
So that's what I'm telling you. Pretty much she said the agitator threw something. So whoever saw or was next to the agitators, they should have put hands on that agitator, because you just put yourself in danger. You did, you know what I mean? Because now as a soldier or officer, I'm coming directly at the crowd, and I'm not looking at Joe Blow, or I'm not looking at Sheila or Mary or Rob. I'm looking at the crowd, and I'm looking at all of you guys as a threat. All of y'all a threat at that particular point. So, and I understand there's a lot of tension up there. I understand from last week where, what's her name, Renee, Nicole Good, was shot and killed. She a mother of three. She left her wife or whatever. She was in that type of relationship. But at the same time, when they went and played those videos back, she was an agitator. She was an agitator, guys. We have to look at those type things. And when they went to approach her to tell her to get out of the car, from what I can see from video, I'm just speaking from video, and they was finna tell her to get out the car, whatever they was gonna do, arrest her or talk to her, whatever, who knows? And none of us know at this particular point. Her wife at the time, or somebody told her to drive. Drive, Renee, drive. You could hear that on video. And she put the car in drive and turned the steering wheel and went. And there was an agent in front of the car. Some videos, it appears that he got hit with the car, and some videos seem like she might have missed. I don't know. I wasn't there. But at the same time, that car became a threat to that agent. And as a person who's been in a high-stress situation multiple times, it's your training kick in reaction. Boom, boom, boom. So I have no idea what he could have did differently. I could care less. Let me say that. But I know as a person who trained when I was in the military, that's all your training kicks in survival, instinct, and reaction. And it happens that fast. 1, 2, 3, boom. So whoever gave her the advice to drive off pretty much sealed her fate. And if she hit the gas, she pretty much sealed her fate. Just like JD Van said. I'm sorry to sound heartless, but yeah, it pretty much said it. Just stop. Everybody always tell us, especially when it's a black man or a black woman or black person, just comply. I'm not trying to be empathetic or not trying to be disrespectful to Renee or her kids or the people up there, but just comply. That's how I look at it, man. So let's go to another one.
Peaceful look.
And another thing, let me say this. I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm okay with that, ruffling some feathers. I never seen people go out and fight for a group of people who doesn't belong here or came here illegally. I understand you want to come here for a better life or whatever your reason for coming here. I understand that. However, there's checks and balances and laws that we have to abide by here as citizens. So what make you think that you can come here pretty much a B&E, breaking and entering, and not have to abide by those same laws? And then the people who up there fight for the people that came here illegally, I don't understand the mindset of that. You know what I mean? I understand there's some hardworking people. Some of them, yeah, but some of them are criminals. Some of them are. Let's just be honest with you. And some of them are hardworking. But hey, if I see 50 snakes over there, and you tell me, hey man, 40 of them is harmless, all I see is 50 snakes. I can't tell you who the harmless ones are not, or one that they're gonna kill me or not. I can't tell you. I'm just seeing people seeing people as a group. That's all I'm saying. I think there are some great people over there that come here from other countries. I do. And I think we can learn a lot from a lot of people that come here. But I can't go to another country illegally and start a whole new life without possibly, if I get caught, there's consequences. You know what I mean? Let's just be honest with you. So let's go to another.
We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another. This is not sustainable. This is an impossible situation that our city is presently being put in. And at the same time, we are trying to find a way forward to keep people safe, to protect our neighbors, to maintain order.
I will tell mayor, well, he's a mayor, to tell your people to stand down. Tell your people to stand down and let ICE do their job. If they do their job, they probably gone. If they don't, you fight against them. President Trump said he's going to send 1,000 more ICE agents there. So you just pretty much putting fuel on the fire, making things worse. We have to understand the times that we in. And the quicker they can do the job, probably the quicker they can get out your state and leave. You know? Let's go to another one.
Let us bring in retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Jason Pack. And Jason, doesn't last night's brutal attack on an ICE agent really underscore the fact that arresting violent illegals is hard enough without having to also contend with demonstrators illegally obstructing that effort?
Well, Todd, that's right. And thank goodness that no one was killed last night, even though they came pretty close, it looks like, based on the initial information that we had. No one wants to see loss of life there. Having said that, it's not like ICE agents or any federal law enforcement are walking into a Chick-fil-A where everybody wants them there. Just the opposite. It's a tinderbox up there, and the rhetoric really is fueling that. It's one thing to encourage folks, Todd, to protest peacefully, but when you encourage folks to interfere, and when they do interfere, then that's totally something different. Like, it's well-established law since the 1950s that Congress passed that the Immigration Act is legal. And so these agents are there enforcing federal law, whether people like it or not. That is their right not to like it, but it still doesn't mean it doesn't apply to them. And so I think that's what we're missing here is the fact that, yeah, we may not like the law, but it's well-established law, and federal law works in Minnesota just as well as it does anywhere else in the United States.
Do you blame the rhetoric from Minnesota politicians like Tim Walz, Jacob Fry, Ilhan Omar for getting us to the point where really the dehumanizing of ICE agents has gone so far that an ICE agent was literally beat with a snow shovel last night?
Yeah, well, I won't pretend to get into the minds of the politicians. That's there's a network full of political analysts do that. From a law enforcement perspective, when you're out there trying to do your job, you can't pick your assignments. You go where you're told to go, and you enforce federal law that you were sworn to enforce. Now, can we talk about tactics? Sure, and I understand why citizens in Minnesota may have their eyebrows raised this morning after 2 ICE shootings, but let's just look at this a little bit more. From a tactical perspective, every time we did a traffic stop when I was a federal agent, an FBI agent, we had a local marked unit do the traffic stop. I think the public is seeing just how dangerous traffic stops can be, and if there's no help from local law enforcement there, then the feds are not going to just take their toys and go home. They have to enforce the law. They're going to bring in overwhelming force, which is another tactic to keep everyone safe, not just law enforcement, but everyone. And so doing that, they're finding out that traffic stops are really dangerous. And when you put someone who is about to lose their freedom in a situation, you have these types of things coming by. They have fear of the unknown, Todd. They don't know what's going to happen to them. I think DHS DHS has offered them to self-deport so they can be in control of how that happens. So there's some other options to work around, but let's not lose sight. Like, I know people are concerned there, but there's hopefully some cooler heads that will prevail.
I fully expect the left today to come out and say, look, ICE agents apparently can shoot people in the leg. They don't have to kill them. You know you're going to hear that on a bunch of other far left channels. Why is that line of thinking, that line of reasoning misguided?
Well, you don't shoot to stop, you shoot to eliminate a threat. And that was a deadly force situation based on the facts that we have that have come out over the past few hours there. A shovel is a deadly weapon. It's way more clear cut than maybe the one earlier in the week where you could talk about tactics. Again, maybe even if the shootings are legal, they sometimes may not build public trust, but they are there to keep agents and officers safe and the community safe. So again, like these traffic stops, usually the gold standard is marked unit to do that. These communities decide maybe they don't want to. That's their right. They elected the folks there to represent them. But this is one of the consequences of not doing it as safely as possible, in my view.
Jason Pack, as always, really important insight from the law enforcement perspective. We appreciate you getting up with us. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Tom.
Like I said, there's several things I want to talk about. One is, like my man just said, DHS did offer people who's illegal to self-deport. You're not going to stay here. They're going to find you. They are going to find you. Or if they don't find you, somebody's going to get upset with you and turn you in. Green cheese is down the street in the third house on the right because they're mad with you. That's what people do. So eventually your time will be up. And then you don't get to control how you go back. You don't get to control if you're in this camp for, I hear people in these jails or whatever they are, confinement centers or whatever they call them, for months. You know what I mean? And they don't know what's going to happen next, and they just ripped away from their family. And I understand nobody want to be taken away from their family. I do. I wouldn't want to have to be ripped away from my family if I was illegal or did something wrong. So I understand that. But you should be making provisions. As a man, I'll be making provisions to get my money and be like, hey, we all got to leave. Because eventually you're gonna get pulled over. You can get an offender bender. You can get facial recognition with there's a camera on every block now. So there's your time. You're never gonna get called one day, and your time gonna be up. And then I'm seeing like local police. They say local police. Marked cars is not helping ICE agents. They're standing down. I think that behavior should be punishable. Let me say that. If you're a public servant and you know there's illegal activity going on and you're not willing to do anything about it, you pretty much harboring fugitives up there yourself. Your local government, Walls in Jacob Fry and Ilhan and all them, man. It seems like everybody up there right now is corrupt for some reason. I have no idea. I don't know none of them. But that's how all this stuff started. This stuff started because of the potential fraud and scam. I ain't gonna say potential because they've been proven that it is some scam up there. It is some fraud up there. And a lot of the Somalians came out and was bragging about it. So that's why a lot of these ICE agents is there. And then you tell me, all right, they there. Okay, we know they committed fraud, but oh well, we don't want you here. We happy here. As a United States citizen who can always use a little bit more in my pocket, you think I want to see illegals brag about what they get in millions? One guy said he bought a Ferrari and a Bentley. I wish I could buy a Ferrari or a Bentley. And if I can buy them, I damn sure can't afford to maintain them. You know, so I'm seeing people brag about watches and doing an interview with what one dude had on some $2,800 glasses. And I'm like, golly. So that's why a lot of these people are here. That's why ICE is there. So it's a lot. And then how can a person go from net worth of $1,000 to damn near 30 million. I don't get the political financial gain of what kind of investment you got, because I would love to learn the type of investments these cats have, because that's a hell of a profit margin, you know. So anybody harboring, I don't care if you're a local citizen, if you harboring or illegal, you should be charged with a felony. Just being honest with you, because you're part of the problem. There's a lot of people out here who use those resources. A lot of citizens, a lot of veterans. You know, I mean, homeless and hungry veterans out here. You know, I mean, hungry and homeless citizens out here that they weren't homeless a year ago, but lost their job and now they're sleeping in their car. And you tell me people can get fraud and brag about it on the internet and it's all good, and then you backing them? I don't agree with none of that. So you should be punished too. You should be punished.
Us establish a record of exactly what's happening in our communities. You have an absolute right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct these activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of the atrocities against Minnesotans, not just to establish a record for posterity, but to bank evidence for future prosecution.
And like I said earlier, he ain't prosecuting nobody. You know what I mean? It is what it is at that. But yeah, they do not want President Trump to invoke this Insurrection Act. You don't want that. If I'm in Minnesota, man, I'm doing everything possible to say, hey, man, we need to calm this down. You do not want soldiers walking through your neighborhood without any checks and balances. You know what I mean? And tension can escalate immediately. Because if you hit a soldier, they're going to hurt you. That's what they're trained to do. Especially if they're sending some of those tactical groups there, like those Marines or those Army soldiers. You're in for a bad way. So I ain't gonna hold y'all, man, with that, man. It's just if you know anybody in Minnesota, man, pray for them right now and ask them to calm down. But we're in a time where there's tension everywhere. And that's another thing, not just Minnesota. I've been talking about Minnesota, but there's tension in Portland. There was a tension up in because 2 people I think got shot up in Portland. So they're protesting and rioting. I think people that got shot in Philadelphia, they're protesting. People are protesting, and I understand. I'm not telling people just bow down. You got the right to protest. That's what you can do. But what I am telling people is you have to do it peacefully. And if you got agitators out there that's edging on or trying to put fuel on the fire, you got to address it. You got to call those jokers out. You have to. You really have to, man. And Tim Walsh and Jacob Fry and Ilhan Omar need to get out and tell people to back off. Let's let ICE do their job. But I think it's bigger than that. I think it's a lot of underhand stuff going on. That's why Tim Walsh, who's a former vice president candidate, is resigning. He said he's not running a second term. And I'm probably going to find so much ish when the next governor get in office. So I won't be shocked if they start bringing charges on a lot of people. I wouldn't be shocked. Because what's going on up there, they talking about this like 8 to 10 billion in fraud. People got rich, not rich, but rich, but super rich in there. It's a lot of people lining their pockets. And that amount of fraud and scamming that was going on, you had to have people in place that knew the system, that was experienced with the system, and knew how to get by the system and sign off stuff to act like they didn't see. It's so many hands probably was in that pot. You ain't finna get that much fraud, that much money. How is a daycare getting $4 or $5 million, not $3 to $5 million from the government? What kind of mess is that? I know several daycares. I know some people own daycares, and they get government refunds and government grants, but not at that level. So I'm like, how in the hell they got that type of wealth, that money like that? And then they said they were sending millions of dollars being shipped through the airport. So it's a lot of stuff going on, man. And so I just pray that it does get cleaned up. I pray that everybody come together. I pray that your local politicians calm this wreck down. And I pray that Trump don't have to invoke the Insurrection Act. With that said, man, I'm Abel.